Okay, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to TFC Open Mic. This is season 3, episode 6. So we titled this one quickly, "Let's Talk TLC and Tokens," because I think it's that sort of week this week. Evening, all those in live chat. Ford's in there moderating. Hello, buddy. How you doing? The regular crew, I think, is in there. I can see. Yeah, Miranda's in there. Mr. S is in there. Nick's in there. How you doing, buddy? Rick Morris is in there. Jenny's in there. Lady Cat. What else we got? Let's have a look. Cuttlefish is in there. There's a couple of us as well. Good. On the panel so far, we've got Brian. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. Hefe's in. Hey, mate.
Oh, pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, fine, mate. John himself. Hey, mate.
Good evening. Evening, everybody.
Good, good, good. And Sohex, how are you, mate?
We're doing good, doing good.
I'll pop the link in the chat just in case anyone wants to pop in, that sort of stuff. So that's done. Right. Good. So TLC-tastic. Would you say it's not a bad week for TLCs? We'll start on the good things this week, shall we? So TLCs, what do we reckon? What do we get this week? We've had, let's have a quick look at the list. What did we get? So Hidden Depths, that was good because obviously, yeah, Hidden Depths, Fangtooths. What do we reckon to that one?
Yeah, I think we got 2 gifts this week because that's 50 days of, that's one of them that's a gift. That's 50 days of tokens to build a Fangtooth fleet.
I mean, that's practically unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, especially for one that's relatively obtainable by people that don't own the technology.
Yeah, and we've got 6K VXP tokens in that one there. 5 of them on Price Pack 2, which is nice. And by the time you get to Price Pack 2, you've got like 11, Fangtooth build tokens as well. So at least that's ranking some ships up. But the Price Pack 3, another 7 of them, and another 30K VXP tokens. 5 of them. I mean, that's you virtually done, isn't it? But it's that last one, isn't it?
It helps the player base a lot because a lot of people didn't have Fangtooths at all.
Yeah, I think they must have heard people. Yeah, it's good. Raina's in. How you doing? And Jeff's in.
Yo.
How's you? How are you, Raina? You all right?
I'm good.
Excellent. So, do we agree then that this, I think Hidden Depths is probably one of the best TLCs that they've run in a long time?
It's a really good one. It helps a lot of people to get the Fangtooths who didn't have them and could do them.
I'm really surprised they put in so many of the flagship tokens as well. I mean, someone was saying apart from all but two torpedoes, I think you can build a full fleet from this.
Sort of. It's 50 days, depending on how much charge you put on, I guess. It's weird because yes, this is a fantastic.
Except for the armor.
A full fleet, that's the armor, yeah.
Probably something like that. It's great. You get Fangs, a relevant fleet for current map target that's very important in uranium. I'm honestly a little concerned actually because they did give us so many, and the fact that we got so much of this combined with the fact that they've taken 2 of the new Scourge uranium targets off of the map and they're tuning them right now, and the other one that's still on the map will just straight up kill your Tide Seekers or, give you an hour, 40 minutes worth of damage on auto with fully built hunters that can take less damage, granted half raid time, in the S target of the last raid. It makes me wonder if they're going to say, oh, we don't need to tune these.
Oh, we've lost Brian on bandwidth, I think. Yeah, we have. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm chuffed, I have to say. Oh, is he back?
Yeah, am I back? I think I am. Okay. Yeah, no, it's great. It worries me. Like, a video game just gave me 5 1-ups and full health and a potion of invincibility, and there's been nothing challenging for 2 hours. And there's a giant, double door. Like, something behind there is going to be a big problem. That's what worries me.
Skeptic. I don't know.
The helpful side of it, or the other way of looking at it, is introduce those new skirmish targets and saw how many people were forced to use the Tide Seekers in them. And this gives them opportunity to the Hunter one and the Fangtooth. At least it doesn't shut them out of the game, because it appears they want to shut the Tideseekers and the Hellrays out of the game. Long term, I mean, I guess they need to. The next step would be to include Hunter or the Fangtooth in the Foundry, because this is for people that are able to complete this at this point in time. What happens for people that miss this in 3 weeks? So there needs to be another mechanism for them to get at this technology.
I mean, this one is reasonable enough where it could just sit in your tower permanently. I don't see why it needs to be timed. You know, once you've done it, you've done it. The same as all the other ones. They could just leave it in there. You know, same as down the barrel and Dragon Strike and that sort of stuff. I don't see, once you've completed it, it could just sit there as a completed TLC. You know, I don't see why it has to disappear. To be honest,
I think they lost the formula for that, because they haven't done that in how many years?
Fair point. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know, but I mean, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, because it is a good idea, but I'm just wondering if it's because the acknowledgement of, you know, so many players have been locked out for so long, they thought, well, we better do something, otherwise we can't carry on the concept of, you know, the 2 fleets requirements and that sort of stuff, you know, to go through TLCs. I mean, that was the problem with obviously going through onto the Hydra one to get the charge, isn't it? You know, that's number 7. You've got to have, you know, the right fleets, you know, and if you haven't got the right fleet, then it doesn't matter how many decent subs you've got, you're still not going to get the last one, unless you want to spend an absolute fortune. You're still going to get the last target to get that bit of final bling, you know. Yeah, I don't know. Question I was going to ask actually is, okay, so you get 50 tokens. Do you build 5 ships, as in the flagship plus 4, week, or do you build 5 plus 2, or the flagship plus 2 or 3 with some charge on? What are your thoughts?
I would go the flag and a 2 or 3 with the charged. To be honest, you'll need that more than trying to do it without any armor.
Yeah, if the charged armor actually was a luxury item, like they claimed long ago it was and never claimed again, yeah, then I could see that. But no, you need charged on these. I was doing the Buccaneer based TLC earlier for the tokens, and it was the VXP target with the sonar and those little ships in there, and I lagged for about half a second when the glut started firing, when they see you in the bottom right.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them start firing, so I didn't know to turn. And I tried to turn away, and I took a few missile hits with charged of explosive and concussive, and I still took about a quarter damage on my fleet from 4 of those missiles with charged. So you need them.
I'd say it's more of on how well you drive, because I don't. It is a luxury item for me because I drive really well in these targets. But I do see that in times of need, it does help a lot if you have them, and with lag as well.
Can I have your connection that you apparently have 8 ping and just are a god?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite content with driving subs. Always have been. You know, I love the Hellray raid as it was, because I'm a sub driver and I've got a very good connection. But of late, you know, with so many different skirmishes and so many rounds in the same one, I think in the last one you got the hour to do them all. Lag comes in for everybody, and I think then you start jumping a little bit, and you know the paving's not smooth, and I think that's when the charge comes into its own. It's a bit more forgiving.
It just gives you that buffer, doesn't it? You know what I mean? You can take a hit or 2. If you haven't got it, then you've got to drive perfectly, and like you say, no lag.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad it's there. I just think it should just stay in the campaign tower and just leave it there. And then once you've completed it, you completed it, which is, yeah, but a great one. You know, with VXP, with plenty of tokens available, having the flagship as well, and be able to complete quite a lot of that. I think with Tideseekers, I think that's really, really good. I think it's proven to be very, very popular, that one there. Which moves on to the next one, which I'm going to jump a couple of them, to be honest. But I say the Paths to the Continent, the Buccaneer one that came out. Was that a bit of a surprise as well, wasn't it?
It was a pleasant one, a pleasant surprise. Yeah, it's doable, which which was by yourself. It's doable solo if you've got the right fleets and ranking and all that, and obviously charged armors. So it was pretty surprising.
Yeah, I was quite pleased, I must admit. I mean, the Prize Pack 1, a lot of people obviously have got Buccaneers, that's already done. But I got a funny feeling that was that Phoenixes and Skyfires, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've done it quite a bit in our sector, sort of like anybody that's above the right level to just go and start it and then just sit in the corner with something and then we'll just go and do it for them, because even the damage, if you're just assisting, it's not a great deal. I think that's the idea, because they're expecting you to go and help people out, I think.
That target was the 89 from the raids, and it was actually glitched so that if you kill the Rudolph, the big one,
yeah,
it would actually lag the whole target afterwards, and it would be almost impossible to drive. It actually got fixed. I noticed. I killed the Rudolph for the big one, and it seemed like it wasn't lagging at all. So they fixed that one. I really do like that.
Yeah, I drove with Phoenixes, and actually I just to go to the first bit of the tower, because I get lots of retargeting, I just use a simple small pinch, and then it was easy after that, and I come out of it in a pretty good condition, to be honest. I was really happy, as was the person I was helping. I quite liked it. I thought it was good. And level 2, what was that? I think that was level 2, the skirmisher one. Is that the one?
Skirmish one from the Hydra. It had the Draconian ships as well as the
yes
ships.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so that wasn't a bad
That
time.
one didn't like hunters.
No, it didn't seem to, did it? No.
They didn't like hunters.
Yeah, someone was trying to do it with Tide Seekers, and I was like, no, don't even attempt to do with Tide Seekers.
Well, they're giving away a lot there, aren't they? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're getting 7 days worth of Bucky tokens. So, I mean, that's a half a ship done, isn't it? Or a quick refit. If you want to put a couple of bits, I mean, that's 2.5 pieces of charge armor. So that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think what they need to do with these, I guess, if it was unfriendly to hunters, like they'll say skirmish fleets. I think they need to be a little clearer in the UI, the pop-up before you start the campaign of exactly what they want. Because if you're wrong, that's probably like 4 to 5 hours of damage at minimum. And knowing how hard they can tweak the numbers either way, a lost fleet at maximum. And at that point, you're not going, oh, let me go and switch fleets. You're going, oh, I have 11 hours of repair. I don't want to do this. I'm going to go do something else. If it's meant for fangs, just say fangs. If it's meant for hunters, just say hunters. Stop trying to be vague when everything else has to be so incredibly precise in the game. It's almost shady at this point. And I know that they're just recycling what they used prior in the Herculean, but hopefully going forward they'll fix it and say, like, for target 7 of Herculean, that the next time they do it and have to make this new again, they'll think beforehand and put in, hey, this is target 7 you're about to go into? Hunter fleets recommended, not skirmish, hunter.
I would add to that. I would add well-built hunter fleets, I recommend, because you can't just say, all right, because someone will go in there with hunters with some random weapon on it and some random armor and go, oh, it didn't work. That was rubbish. You told me hunters would be fine, So, not that I'm being a diplomat. I'm certainly not being a lawyer, but well-built is probably a good precursor to that, I think.
If you got that far, I'd like to think you know how to build a ship. If you beat the first 6 levels. Yeah. Oh, what was it? Was it Zoe's? The Zoe's one that said legendary fleets recommended. That's a good one. That could go as being posted everywhere.
Yeah, that's a very general statement. You could have legendary freaking gunboats, which we'll come on to gunboats in a minute, because there's some amusing stuff there. But ultimately, sorry, the level 2, I zipped forward there. Level 2 was just 3 build tokens, so but that's good. That's fine. It's the 10 in total, wasn't it? So it was level 3, which was, I used hunters for that, I think. No, Hydras, I mean, for that. There was a Hydra target, wasn't it? It was a...
Yeah, it was the 89
Legion.
It was the 89 from the previous raid.
Is that what it was it? Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I must admit, I didn't hit an 89, so... But it was okay. I was quite happy with that thing. Didn't do a huge amount of damage. And enough to be expected, to help somebody out. So I was quite content. I was just reading in chat there, Cuttlefish, he said he's done hang on a minute, scroll back up. What did it say? Things like helped about 40 odd people. Yeah, I've handed out 48 Buccaneer fleets to people so far in my sector. Well done, buddy. That is very, very sort of like, neighborly, isn't it?
Now, is it
It's EP
only
Christmas.
Alliance?
He says in sector, he said there.
Oh, so you could
No,
actually
I
help
don't.
other people in other alliances?
Yeah, you
or-
don't need anybody. So long as somebody starts it at their tower, you can go and help anybody.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
So long as they're the right level, then they can start. That's it. I can't honestly remember what the restriction was. I think it was level 50, but maybe
Yeah.
less. I don't know.
And the helper does not get these rewards, right?
No.
Is that correct?
So no, and that's the idea. It gets that person what they need. So yeah, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned, Which I think is another fleet that people clearly are going to need, because I think some more targets on the water are going to change soon. So, is anybody using their buckies in the expeditions just out of interest? I know Ren's not on tonight, but he's a faithful expedition person. So, has anybody been using that as opposed to ironclads and Canadians?
I've used my Buccaneer a couple times. It's okay. I've actually have the Blood Hydra fully fit and ready, and I've been using just that one Hydra to do the expedition for 8% damage on the full fleet, so says, and it's really good.
That's good, because it's a quick ship though, isn't it? Because obviously no, that'd be good actually. I mean, that's pretty impressive for one ship.
Yeah, just one ship. It's how you drive it seems like, and what to target. I'd still need to do a little bit more testing on how to drive, but sometimes I get pretty good damage on it. But most of the time it's around 8% damage. It says.
Okay, all right then. The other bit I wasn't, TLC's been good, I have to say. We've got the Hunter Games one, which is nice if you want to do some adjustments to obviously your the ships there that are clearly obviously the hunters themselves. You want to make some mile adjustments. It's not a bad. I'm still not liking the fact that skirmisher chests are random. It really frustrates me, the random drops, but it is what it is. What I would like to see was obviously the hidden depths to come out first, and then to bring obviously the other TLC in afterwards, because then people could have actually got those subs built, and it would have helped them for some of the other TLCs. But we can't have everything. Who's finished Herculean? Has everybody done that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was that made me wonder when kicks are going to add a blitz feature to mastery rounds, because I hate everything and doom and gloom everywhere, because that's a terrifying future. But I did it. I liked that there were no chests, but it was miserable. I did this last month. I did this again this month, and it's doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Even though there were good rewards, to be fair, they added in a piece of radio charge for the mastery rounds, but it just got boring. It felt like homework.
It did go on a bit, I must admit. And to get the final one, obviously, you needed the both fleets again, didn't you? So that's what I'm saying. It would have been really, really nice to get some of the other stuff out the way earlier. But
it makes you hate these targets. That's what it does. You get tired of doing these targets, and you're like, oh, now great, they're the map targets now. Ooh.
Yeah, so I really just liked having to do 7 or 8 targets in an hour. That's
it's a clock race, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and anything goes wrong, it's just sort of like you need to block that hour out from anything else that may happen. And it's just, it's a clock race on top of that, and then on top of having to refresh to get rid of memory leakage and all that kind of stuff. It's just not enjoyable to have. I'd be fine if they had the last 3 targets on there. The rest of them are just killing time. The first 3 are just it's the last 3 that are.
It's stocking fillers, isn't it? Yeah, it might make it sort of like 3/4 an hour and just miss his first couple out, because I don't know. I get it, sort of like it's tiered and that sort of stuff, but the fact is you did the previous one anyway, so you may as well just go up the difficulty, up the tier. So I don't know. There's no point. It's like enticing somebody in, and they get so far through it, and they go, "Oh, I can't go any further."
And
It's to make you hurry. It's to make you hurry so that you have to get it in time, and in the last rounds you may have to coin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I like that 4 and 5 are the exact same target.
Yeah, that was good
Guys,
this time, wasn't it?
Come on.
I think that was a mistake. That I mentioned that I did a stream this week. I've done one for a while, and I was saying the same thing. I went, I'm sure last time they did this, there was a different 6 than this one. The one that had the sort of like because obviously the 7 was the raid target, wasn't it? But the 6, I think, could have been one of the. There's ones where there's 2 groups of ships left and right before you go for a funneled sort of a gated area. I've seen that used before, but those weren't in it at all this time. So I was quite surprised at.
I think they could just do away with an entire pack and just go, here's pack 1 to get your ship, hull, and weapon, and that's the B set. And here's one to get some build tokens and a good thing, and that's the A set. So 3 targets and then 3 targets, and then if you want, you can spread it out, or you can have both S targets together, and that's your mastery. Can you do an S? Yes. Can you do the other S? Yes. Good. You're done in 20 minutes. Repair your ships. Do it again. You have fulfilled the mastery by hitting the hardest possible target. Like, we know you're good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I won't complain. No, 4 extra charge was quite nice to have, and it's definitely helped me out a little bit, and some tokens to stick them on. So, I'm not going to complain about it because I think it's a good one. The CICs are there, which is nice.
Oh, that was really helpful.
I agree with Brian. Though it would be nice, like the Buccaneer campaign. Currently, it's just like one target, one target, one target. You got a time limit. They could do the same with all of these. It would make time. We've got enough chores and things that take up time without the TLCs taking up time, as well as having to do the FM and get titanium, get uranium. It would be nice, but I do appreciate what they've done.
I don't know what you think, but I honestly think the Buccaneer one, because none of the rounds had a really low time to complete and that sort of stuff. So I honestly think the Buccaneer one's been designed for someone come and help me, please. So Mr. X level 51 goes in there, and then he's asking this whole sector, can somebody come and kill off this one for me? And he can be asking for up to 2 hours or so, because at the end of the day is like, or he can wait for someone to come from another part of the world, sort of thing, if he's got a friend who's waiting to come on. So it is sort of, I think it's a bit more steered to the assistance thing, because no one's going to want to go and help somebody then do 5 or 6 or 7 targets, are they? Because that's just bloody annoying.
Yeah, this was designed really, really well. I like the design of the Buccaneer campaign. You're in for 5-10 minutes. That's the only target. You're done. And because they kept changing the fleet type that you need for every pack, one player could just okay, my Phoenixes did level 1 and took 2 hours of damage. I can't really use them anymore. I'm going to take them back, come back with my Fangtooth for the next one, come back with my Buccaneers for the next one. That guy's done. He's got everything. And I've got, 5-6 hours of repair. That's not too bad.
We did a bit of sharing the pain, like someone went in and did the first one, then someone went in and did the second, and someone else did the third sort of stuff. So then everyone went about fixed and virtually had sort of equal amount of damage. So that's another way you could do it as well, which is quite nice. Hey, George.
Evening, everybody.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah.
You sort of made it tonight.
I saw
nice picture there, George.
Yeah.
I'll get it one of these weekends.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's there, but there are a lot of holes, and our docks are filling up very quickly again. So they need to be doing something pretty soon.
Mine is full. I don't know about anybody else, but yeah, I'm.
Well, I recycle all the time now. I've got no choice.
Well, I'm bursting at the seams, and I want to get rid of some stuff, but lately weird things have been
needed.
Helpful again, right?
Yeah.
And last night we were on the show, and someone found a use for a Harlock's Atlas carrier, and I'm like, oh, that's really neat. I scrapped mine. I mean, this is, if we can't, there's got to be some sort of simpler way of doing this. You can get a storage, like a deep storage, where you can just save your stuff to recall it if needed. I mean, something's got to get done, because now it's, we need both fleets. We need the FVF stuff that's changing every damn 2 weeks again. I mean, I don't know. I need room. And I'm not one of the big coiners like y'all, so that's a bad sign.
That's just a technical reason behind it. The main reason they did that originally was because you were able to use pretty much all your fleets to hit in the raid. And so you could just have as many MCXs as you wanted and just go to town, killing them all during the raid and not have to worry about repairing them. And so that's the reason that block limitation was originally put in. But now I don't know anybody that's going to build, 6 fleets of Buccaneers to do something like that anymore. Just to get away with not having to deal with repairs anymore.
I think part of the thing is back then you could use any of your fleets for anything, and now that it's become such a niche thing, you don't have that problem anymore. So I'm not sure I'm not sure what's going on, but I know Mark's had problems for at least a year now. You've been scrapping stuff.
Mm-hmm. At least
that's ridiculous.
And it's not that I've got tons of fleets to go and hit people with. I've still only got the standard 1 or 2. It's not as if I've got loads of different lined up 6 or 7 ships and fleets and stuff like that I can. It's because that isn't possible at the moment anyway. So
he's lying. I've seen he's got 4 Man of Wars in that dock. I'm just saying.
Oh, don't go there. That ship.
and the thing is too, with PvP and how they're releasing the new tech, and how the tech interacts with pass-through, which technically we don't really know yet, and how strong weapons and Omega things may or may not be. There's a lot of nuance that you can do now in your PvP build. Well, in the near future, because right now we only have the 1 mortar and the 2 armors. But what if there was like one of the new armors, but it was only ballistic 200,000 or only pen 200,000 or whatever? Then you'd have to look at a base and figure out, what do they have? What's their strong and weak damage? And then you could tailor a fleet specifically for that with different armors or not. And because of the pass-through mechanic, they could easily code in a way where if you use the 200,000 ballistic armor, you had a really high pass-through. So something like a chaos chain gun or just a quick-firing ballistic gun could take you out if you weren't prepared. So you have to wonder, pass-through versus this and that. And you could end up with a lot of different builds, even of the same PvP fleet, the same hulls, 3 onslaughts and 2 whatevers. And there could be many different versions of that same fleet if you wanted to attack specific high-end bases. And that would be required because of how the damage in PvP would interact with pass-through, etc. Like PvP is where you could use the rest of your hull slots, even if you only have, 50 slots devoted to PvE with 2 fleets per, that's 40, and then you have 10 extra ships for whatever. You could use the other 70 on PvP, no problem. 70, 80, depending on how niche you want to be. So that's a little concerning going forward.
Yep, sure is. So we'll just finish off on the PvE side. We'll just have a look at this here. So the Serra Legion HQ, which we know has been troublesome to say the least. As a concept, nice, bring it out. You can help each other do and get a stack of stuff, including it was supposed to be obviously a skin for the boon. But again, it's got issues. I'm not quite sure why they can't get it to work, but they clearly can't. So they've basically sacked it now, and they're going to bring it back in next week. So it's not working properly, just like the sentences in that paragraph. So
it showed up a little bit earlier. Although I do, before you get off of the PvE stuff, I'm just curious, did anyone try their Buckies in the targets and notice?
I didn't go near it.
I did the Zoes.
Well, what target?
Any of them, because I've been testing my bucks in a couple of different things, and I noticed last week that, because I used to auto the 67s on the map just for when I needed resources, and they started coming back with 15-20 minutes of damage instead of the whole whopping 3 seconds of damage they were taking. And then I did the campaign, the one that's not bugged, that second part, and was it Hidden Depths?
I don't know, but the turret defense seemed insane on mine when I did that 3rd round with them.
Yeah, I was Hidden Continent. That's what it was. The Hidden Continent. The last one was Hidden Continent.
Yeah, sorry, that one. Yeah.
And I was like, it started out good. I'm like, ooh, good. And then all of a sudden, I just start like getting damaged. Like, I'm like, what is going on with this? And I ended up taking like 2 hours of damage with that. It was weird. I don't know.
During the raid, that was the 89, and I would do those for instant repair during the raid. And now I'm taking, depending on my driving, I did one time, I did like an hour, 2 hours of damage, and then the rest of it, it's in 10 hours. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I think it's mainly based on the time sensitive of the drones and the damage buoys.
See, and I don't know if it's that or if there's something just, because the wonky things have been happening. So I'm trying to keep my eyes out on stuff, and I just wonder if something happened to the Buck or not, or specials or crews or what's going on.
Well,
either that or they made them harder because they're co-op, and they just got to be harder,
Oh, right. Maybe, but that doesn't, why would you make a target so specifically, like a campaign, this entire campaign was so specifically for get new people the Buck, get new people stuff to build the Buck. And then the last target is like overly difficult, harder, much harder than the raid when we've had time to put charged armors on. It doesn't make sense, but then again, making sense.
Yeah, I mean, it could be intended. It could be intended, but the other thing that I'm concerned about is whether or not they've made any changes to the target since last raid, since we noticed that there was a disparity between the two target types. And I'd like to know that, before I start the raid, because
if they haven't, I'll be surprised, because escalation's escalation, isn't it?
Oh, you mean like shifting the damage to ballistic as opposed to
because like I'm running LA3. Like, was that target heavy on radioactive and I didn't know it? I mean, I don't know. That's why I wanted to see if anyone else was noticing that they had more damage.
I noticed that my ballistic charge armor was depleted a lot. And the last time I did it, I was looking really closely. I thought there was a phantom blunderbuss there. There's no blunderbuss that I saw. There's no phantom blunderbuss. I noticed there's the emancipators. There's emancipators. There's two of them on the middle island that would, knock me down. And it would take a lot of charged armor damage. Take it down to charged armor. And once your charged armor is down, you get hit pretty hard. But there's also damage buoys. Yeah, there's damage buoys next to those suckers, and if you lay those damage buoys down, I'm pretty sure that's where the majority of the damage comes from, is those two.
The ballistic is yellow, yeah?
Ballistic.
No, it's orangish, I think.
Yeah, orange yellow. Yeah.
So radioactive's yellow?
Yeah, radioactive's yellow.
I wish they could just different. It's annoying the colors are too close together. I don't know why they do that. You can complete opposites,
for colorblind people, that's gonna be bad.
Well, if ballistic is yellow, like the yellow one, because that's what I had left at the end. Because I was noticing I was in the bottom left-hand corner. I wasn't in any field. I wasn't in anything, and my charge activated, and all I had left was the yellow one, which is very strange given that I have 3 plates of the C and I'm running LA3 and I still took over 2 hours of damage. That starts now I'm worried.
Yeah, I ran too close to a thing, but I also lagged a bit. But I lost my C charge really early on, but I also lost like about half of my health. But that's lag. The radio plate is the yellowish one, and I could tell that because of the fire fields. Can they just make ballistic purple or something?
Yeah, why not?
Or how about some neon colors that stand out? So it's easy.
We can pretend we're in the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift VP edition.
Yeah, I was just looking in chat there. So Jenny's saying the same thing. She had she got her ass handed to her. She had the blood hydra and 2 hydras fully fitted out into the second target.
It's happening with the hydras too.
Yeah, she said that, and Lady Cat's in there as well, and said that basically she was in. First time got melted completely, but second time she ordered it and it was fine. Got 30 minutes damage. Go figure.
Huh.
And the hydras,
what it is.
But with hydras, it sometimes depends on the CIC. Like I would use the range one because you don't want to get too close, and you can barely nick the edge of those buoys with the bucks. But that's like Hellwraith tight. and I want a bit more range on that. But also, if you do that, then you majorly lose your resistances. So if you've got the siege capacitor, I think it's called, you're going to get hurt a lot no matter what. But if you have something like the Aegis, then that's a problem because that's a defensive one. Shouldn't be taking that much damage.
Yeah.
Well, Buccaneers can snipe the buoys as well.
Yeah, it's really difficult though.
Yeah.
Got to know what you're doing, mind. Some other stuff for this week then. I mean, we've had this pile of interesting sort of concerns to deal with as well. So R&D manufacturing went a bit skewy because obviously the slide bar for some reason was going off the end of the screen, which then meant you couldn't actually click on the dial things. That was fixed pretty quick. What wasn't quick so fixed? I mean, I'm sorry, rewards for hitting targets, that was a bit screwed up. So you could go in and get some uranium and you basically wouldn't get any. And titanium as well, which is a bit frustrating. They fixed those quite quick. What didn't get fixed quite so quickly was people took spotted obviously in the retrofit lab. Then obviously there was retrofitting the hunters and the fang tubes, and you were like, oh right, click on that, and all of a sudden then they decided that wasn't going to stay in there. And then you refreshed, and then basically those ships turned into gunboats, and it took a couple of days to sort that out, which was annoying some people ever so slightly. And then the other one was this new trap. They found a trap in the researchable area, and as Brian said, the undersea one wasn't. We weren't informed about it. It was just there, so people went to research this thing, and that locked them out of the game for even longer. I know it's fixed now, but I think 2 or 3 days that was. People just couldn't even log in, couldn't do a darn thing because it's hacked the game.
I feel especially bad for the people without support that did that, which thankfully was not me. I guess I'm glad I should be, work the whole day and not have to worry about things being on fire with releases. But if you didn't give Kicksai $50 and you got hosed by this, you lost a couple of days, and typically they wouldn't give any sort of compensation. At least if you had support, you'd be able to get gold or some other compensation, I'm not sure what, for time lost. But there it's like, yeah, you did this thing, and with the Scourge Web you set a precedent where a trap could be perfectly researchable and legal to do so in the game without being communicated in the notes. So we can't even trust the forums anymore, and then people just did it again and they got hosed. The skirmish thing I think was a little funny because technically you still have a skirmish fleet, they're just gunbugs. But
yeah, random. Did anybody here get affected by that, by the way?
No, I didn't at all.
All right, I'm just waiting for some ranting. That was all. I was waiting for someone to go, yeah, it was me,
Well, honestly, with that situation, it's more of a gamble. You're gambling to see if you could get a heads up on the next trap or the next, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not released in the forum, which I'd go look at the forum and see if, hey, we're releasing this. I checked it to usually don't do anything about it. Because I don't want to take the chance.
I have become a skeptic. I don't start TLCs early. I don't go to Alpha World for raid, that sort of stuff. Just because I don't. I mean, sometimes it's to the person in Alpha getting advantage, But sometimes and generally lately, it's not. And so
yeah,
I'll keep
I was about to say I don't feel all that bad because the people that did click on this stuff is probably the same ones that, get to do TLCs 4 times and get 3 months of tokens,
And 500 million points.
Yeah, I know something happened with the Bucky one, but we're not going to mention what happened there. Yeah, so it's interesting. So there was some goof ups there. I mean, they're all apparently fixed now. So apart from obviously that co-op, one to go and get all those lovely the lovely charge armors, but that's not there. But the other thing we've got one more thing. Well, I thought we'd spin it around now because that's enough of PvE. Because I'm a bit sick of it. Is this stuff here. So there's a lot there, but the Omega weapon then apparently. So in fixing the situation with Siege Battery, obviously they took a look at various other components as well. And I'll just scroll down there so we can see it. So apparently all these things here in the retrofit weren't working. So there's quite a lot, or they weren't working properly, as in the retrofits weren't being applied correctly. I don't say they weren't being applied at all, but correctly. Was there another one? No, that was it. So there's a whole lot of stuff there. Interesting, the splash, accuracy, obviously, the explosive for submerged hits is quite interesting. Explosive reload, quite interesting. Radioactive accuracy. There's a scattergun reload. There's a lot of things there that have a lot of impact in things that right now in the game. But I think the biggest thing that is now that it's working, apparently Siege Battery. What I didn't know that Siege Battery was actually affecting the Omega weapons, i.e. the ones on the OP, and now that's been taken into consideration. What do we think about Omega weapons now?
Actually, that's how we found the Siege Battery error in the first place, was testing against the Omega weapon.
Yeah, because the Siege Battery, the Omega weapons seem to be kicking some ass at the moment. Even though the King's Writ has got a ballistic upgrade, but some people are actually changing back to the previous weapon. You know, the Shredder cannon. Well, it's not a cannon, is it? It's a concussive gun, isn't it? It's yeah. I mean, so they've upped the. I mean, they said the Onslaught didn't need it. So Boulder Fist and Viscera and King's Writ has got a bit of a boost there. Well, quite a considerable boost, in fact.
More than double in the circumstance where you're doubling the effectiveness of the Omega gun, which is a little weird. The King's Writ almost tripling, and Eviscerator is like about 4 times the ballistic deflection, when it just didn't seem necessary. And the Boulder Fist is immune to it, as I guess was intended. But
yeah, the Eviscerator one kind of has me confused a little bit, because, you know, you're taking the King's Writ from 110 to 310, but then you took the Eviscerator from 83 to 340. And I mean, look, I'll be honest, I skipped the Eviscerator TLC because it was crap when it was back then. And then, you know, now it's like, oh, great. Another instance where, you know what, I should have just done it.
The should have. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets really frustrating when they change stuff after the fact, and then after you can get it, you know.
What's interesting is, I think I'm not sure if it's, you know, lately or not, but whenever they did do these changes, and, you know, I hit a couple of bases. The first base I did was a Draconian base with the kinetic cannon. My King's Writ and my Eviscerator were getting almost no damage at all. And then after that, I went to a Forsaken base, which does 20% ballistic damage buffs to all weapons, and it almost instantly killed my King's Writ and Eviscerator.
That's what I've been noticing. Yeah, I've been noticing some huge. Depending on what faction they're on, there are some massive transitions. I don't know whether it's meant to happen like that, but a couple of my guys in my alliance who have their regular, you know, Monday sort of like farms to go and get their alliance points, they went into their they went back in this week just to see the comparisons, and completely lost their fleet. You know, I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, one was like one of my quite high level guys went into level 79 and got trashed, and I was like laughing at him a little bit, but you know. So yeah,
well, George has seen my base, and last night the guy came in with a bus, a Sloth, 2 Kings, and a Boulder Fist, and I sunk him. Never even made it to my outpost.
Really?
Yeah.
This is.
Oh, you've seen it too, Mark.
Yeah, I saw yours. Yeah. It's just.
I told you, Jeff, I'll come up and visit.
I was trying to be supportive, mate.
No, that's fine.
So.
Go on.
So interesting thing number 1, the faction bonus says ballistic turret damage. Turret damage. So that was interesting. And second is, if they never intended these to be treated as turrets, but they were, like, was that only for the purposes of turret defense, or were like fire supports affecting the Omega damage?
They released them as turrets when they gave us the original description. If you go back and look, they're released as turrets for the OP. I think it literally says it's a turret for the OP in your base.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, yeah, well, I mean, if they're going to change their mind about something, then you know what? Suck it up, eat it, and own it. Yeah, we changed our minds. We released this. This was too overpowered, or it does this to the game, or it imbalances this. I mean, but some of this stuff just come on.
Oh, by the way, so anti-flak or flak evade, I think it was, from the there was the post by Rampage where he talks about the turret types and what does and does not counter reach.
Yes.
Where flak evade makes it so that you can't use phalanx at all. You have to use countermeasure weapon type.
Yeah,
and I almost swore.
Oh my god.
Like, no, that wasn't what that meant. But at the same time, you can understand like necessity because it says it like you need sprint for this.
Yeah,
And that's
he meant
okay,
that they
but-
coded it. He meant that they coded it by damage type for the counter.
Yeah, and I honestly think it would have been easier if they had just said, "Hey, this is a rocket. It's not a missile. It's a rocket. So you need tridents or sprints." Because right now they're the only things that can counter it. And if something in a year comes out that can counter rockets, it's better. Who cares?
Well, the only issue with that, Brian, is the fact that people were looking at the accuracy of the sprint versus the phalanx. Sprint is also going to fire at the missiles. So that's the problem that's introduced into there.
That's exactly the problem because I was planning on building my Buccaneers with only sprints to counter everything.
You can't, mate. Yeah.
And you can't. Even you can't. And I like how they posted this information post first raid, so that we didn't have no clue what the hell was going on the first raid.
Well, I mean, I tested that in that first bit of a video or I can't remember. It was a
Preview.
Whatever. That was it in the preview. And I literally just took one ship at a time, and I literally just built 3 ships, and I put all 3 different types of countermeasures. I think I put the phalanx 4 on it, and I put obviously the sprint on it, and then I put the what's the other one as well? The older one to sprint.
Trident.
I put that on, and I also put on a Gale as well, Gale 3, and I drove. So it's 4 different ships, and I drove each one in each time to see what it would counter, what it would shoot down, and I was like, "That's a missile coming at me," but actually the phalanx isn't touching it. And then I drove something in, and I thought, "Well, why is the sprint hitting it?" I went, "Okay," and it took me a while to work out that it was a rocket, or the effect of a rocket is it work like a cold snap, but it wasn't. It was weird. Mucking us around again. It sort of mucks your head, that sort of stuff. So, but then, like you say, to release it, actually to state it, and I did the slide last week in the show, just to say, this one gets countermeasured by this, and this one gets countermeasured by that. So, and one's a double fire and one's not. One's a track. So it's
Well, I mean, I think this falls back to consistency throughout the game, and I don't know why they insist on making this sort of stuff more complex. I mean, you go, hey, this is a turret. This is a turret. Then that's it. You don't go, this is a turret, except when, deflection.
What is a turret? Not a turret.
Yeah, deflection works here, except for here. I mean,
Surprise!
Yeah, this is what it is. This is how it works, and just be done.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Interesting. Anyway, come on, bit of PvP then. So the new armors out in Tier 4, obviously people have been playing around with that sort of stuff. Have they found them as beneficial as they thought they were and they're going to do when they first came out? Don't know. Brainer, you've been quiet. Come on.
I think it depends on the boat you're putting them on. I think what GDR said in the post that he made is accurate. They aren't as good, I think, on some of the older holes as what I thought they were going to be, but they're good on the onslaughts. And in the right circumstances and the right combination, they're good on the older ones. But, sometimes it doesn't make sense which ones do really well and which ones don't do really well on some of the older holes.
It's not as large. I mean, there are some hidden numbers which they sort of hinted they were going to do, the minimum bypass of certain ships and that sort of stuff, But it is a bit of a sort of like guessing game, isn't it? Or it is for me. I'm still like, right, okay, I know that one works now, so now I'll keep messing around just by adding. I mean, I was going to like slap on a lot of armor, and then I thought, well, no, I won't. I'm just going to do one at a time, sort of, and that's what I'm doing. I'm adding like one armor, going out testing it, then adding another armor, then taking it off, and then adding one of the other armors on, and just messing around that way on certain ships. Because there's some unusual combinations, I must admit.
A lot of people are just trying to do the pass through by putting like maxims or axioms on on the turrets and try and do the pass through.
The rapid salvo thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's logic. I mean, that's basically how he hit that, wasn't it? And I sort of asked him a couple of questions as well about if you've got a single salvo, single pellet, bullet, what you want to call it. If it's only doing say like 200 damage, do you get the extra bit free and that sort of stuff? And he was confirming that that you don't get that. It's got to be at least to the maximum pass through to get it. So that's good news. But there are some weapons, as you've said, people have been talking about chain guns, and the eviscerator cannons is the one that came with the eviscerator was quite a good example that you get the salvo up on that and get it reloading as fast as you possibly can, then it's it can wreck and right mess. And this is why a lot of people put them on onslaughts. There's some interesting stuff you can do with some older tech as well, especially in the base defense. Slow down extras and that sort of stuff. But I've had some fun this week. I've had quite a few people.
I think it gave a little bit of more health to, say the older defensive holes like the Justice. I've put them. I've actually retreated my Justice right now, and it's actually helped a lot because people have tried to do sloths on my base, and the Justice's Thorn does in fact hurt the sloths and stuff like that. It does pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking in chat there, actually, in the sidebar. So Wayne was saying the problem with the armors is obviously the path-through isn't listed. Well, I know they did say, they were going to try and work on that and try and produce those figures. And that'd be a nice thing to have in each of the blueprints, what the pass-through figure would be for each of the PvP ships. Because that would give you a base figure, wouldn't it? If we had that, I think that would make it a bit more clearer for people as to what armor to put on and what not to. But it's understanding that, and I know George said about it, the post that GDR did do was a notional maximum level. He didn't actually put an actual maximum level. It was just an example. But a lot of people took that as read that was the ceiling, but that wasn't the case. So we don't know. We just knew that it was 364, the Onslaught, the latest hull. So we used that as a ballpark example. But interesting. But it's brought some interesting stuff. Courages of if you're clever with them, you build them. You can utilize them. They're not as weak as they were, because I mean, put a mortar in them, they used to fall over basically. They're not so bad as they were. Hopes have had a bit of a extension of life, I think, with a bit of adjustments. Look out, Venom's in now. Look, I thought he wasn't going to be on tonight.
And the Inquisitor matches up perfectly with one of the armors. And
the Inquisitor, yeah, and obviously the glut as well. If you don't get too carried away with too much, it's making it a bit more interesting. So yeah, I mean, has anybody started using them on mega ships, by the way, drones and that sort of stuff, or?
I never really thought about that. That's actually not that bad of an idea. I don't know. Theoretically, it might be a good idea.
We've got a few people putting them on ours, but you have weight issues, so you've got to pick and choose your battles.
And sometimes the drones die quick.
Yeah, because the biomass stuff is some of the drones just get that they're worse, not stronger. So, hey Venom, how you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing very well.
About time, you bastard.
Turn your mic up a bit, mate, if you can. If not, I'll do it for you. Bring it a bit closer or something. So, how's your week been, buddy?
Interesting to say the least.
Interesting to say the least. Okay, in what way? Go
on. Don't coin anything on your mega is one, because my level 2, instead of going to level 3 weapon, went down to level 1 for no reason. Even the ticket just went nowhere. They haven't responded to it either. So, that's always lovely. And
so you went from, you had it at level 2, you were going to level 3, you then coined the upgrade, you went back to level 1.
Yes.
How nice. You can't write this stuff sometimes, can you?
What's interesting is it comes up as level 1 if you click on the mega, but in the battle it shows as level 2, and when you check the report it's level 3. So it's broken in every sense. So
weird.
That one's fun.
So interesting now. So Ren is here, Venom's in, that sort of stuff, and who else we got? It's in the bit. Oh, there's a few people from some of the big alliances, obviously. So how do we think this armor is going to affect bounty? That's what I'm interested in.
99% of bases will be flat.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it'll really help with the base hitting portion of bounty.
Do you think it's going to level things back up a little bit more? Because it was really unbalanced, wasn't it, the last bounty? Do you think we're in a better place?
I think it depends. I mean, the challenge still is getting bounty into the system in a way that makes it worthwhile. Because if the only people who are getting the bounty are the ones who are stopping, you know, the ships all the time, then that's still not reallocating the bounty to make it easy to get. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. I still think that the issue with bounty is the fact that you can go in and prep somebody, especially if they're offline, and you know, you can do an awful lot of damage to them, but obviously not so much, and you can virtually kill their base. And then if they're not on, you know, then you can go back in 4 hours' time. They're not fixed, particularly their base fleet, but you are, and then you can just go and grab whatever you want easy. You know, it's one of those stay by a computer until your eyelids flipping snap off sort of things, isn't it? If you're trying to gain too much, especially on the last day. I think that's a horrendous situation. I know someone lost like 30k in bounty, which must have been horrendously depressing.
I've watched someone lose more than 30k. Got hit once a few hours before, and they just left something like an oil rig in their base, and then just before the end they took the rest of it. But with these changes in these armors, I do think that yes, lower players are going to have a little bit of an easier time collecting the bounty, but they're going to have an impossible task of stopping anyone from taking it. There's no chance for a lot of players keeping the big players out at all. They're just going to get just rolled constantly.
I mean, if you play the game, you know, I'm not saying gain the game, but if you play the game, you know, and I tested it, not this bounty just gone, but the one before, without even doing any of the high level bingo targets, you know, you can lock away without really getting hit up to about 14k with a bounty. So it is still worth doing. You know, you are going to get hit. There's no doubt about it, because people do take a bit of your stuff. But I was quite surprised how much I could pack away by doing very little. Well, in fact, nothing. Didn't hit a single target out in the water at all. I was quite surprised, you know, because there's the base defense bit you can do, and there's the, you know, obviously the 800 every 6 hours. So if you get your timings right and do your base hits on people coming to hit your base at the right sort of, like, you know, right moments, then you can lock 2k away pretty quick, a couple of times a day. It's not hard to do.
We have a lot of people who do the first 4 checkpoints every day, so they get their 8,000 locked in for the day, and then they just kind of stop for the day.
It's a nice place to sit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the last one's quite a long climb to the last one. But yeah, the fourth one, which the four 2k ones, is good. Yeah, I must admit, quite like that. Right. Anyway, look, we're on the hour. Anybody got anything they want to talk about? Individual subjects? I think we covered everything this week. A little bit look forward.
The Zoe's HQ, the TLC that is not there right now.
Oh yeah. Raina, did you say you had to go at that?
Yeah, we made it all the way to the 3rd prize pack.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah, well, it was equally frustrating because every time one of us died, all the buildings inside of it respawned, which is one of the things that they're trying to fix. So you'd get the pop-up when you died that said it saved, you know, your target progress, and then you'd go back in, and the fleets were still, you know, as damaged, but all the buildings had completely respawned. So very surprise. So very, very frustrating. I was co-oping with one of the guys in my alliance, and his fleet builds and my builds are almost identical. So, you know, we know, you know, the fleets that we're using and the builds that we're using, and for both of us combined, we spent about 266 coins, I think we added up, to get to prize pack 3 for the campaign to time out and us still not be able to actually finish prize pack 3.
Oh, what?
So it was very frustrating.
Another thing I'm glad I never went near then. I would be, where's the rage quit button? It's got to be there somewhere.
Yeah, well, and so we were on TeamSpeak coordinating the hits too, so it's not like communication was an issue. I mean, we were coordinating, okay, you move to hit this, and, you know, I'm going to guard you from the ships here, and, I mean, communication wasn't an issue, fleet skill wasn't an issue. We're both using the newest tech, full charged armor. Totally not worth it to get 2 of each charged armors.
Yeah, some of their stuff they do overrate it, I have to say. You know, that's not the first time that's been the previous the target they did previously in last month was the same situation. I didn't rate doing the 120s around the water. I didn't rate that target at all, to be honest. A lot of people sorted it out, but by the time we worked it out, I just didn't think it was cost effective, to be honest. I'm not into taking damage just for the sake of taking damage. And it's a bait and trap, isn't it? There was an awful lot of pretty shiny stuff, wasn't there? It looked very nice and very colourful and that sort of stuff, and it looked like there was an immense amount of things. But to be honest, I would rather go with one less Hydra that I've got. You know, if I have a flagship and 3 well-built ones, I'd rather take that in and slow build the second one, the last one, and maybe actually use some of the stuff within the raid to build the last one and wait. I don't know.
You know, I don't know why they always constantly equate challenging with damage. You know, like if they're going to do a co-op target, rather than have something that deals an insane amount of damage, why don't you have it set up against a timer instead?
Yeah, so it runs out. Yeah, you got to do it quicker.
Yeah, there's other ways to make something challenging other than killing our fleets and costing us money. I'm just saying, there are other options.
And
well,
I
have the
looked some
target
of
right
those
first.
Yeah, I mean that would
yeah.
help too. That would help
and the
too.
thing is, I looked some of those things up. The extra credits, which I laud on occasion, was doing a bit on some like what makes games difficult versus fun.
Yeah.
And I looked at some of the stuff as compared to the targets. Then I saw Rob Carmody's stream.
Yep.
Where
he posted when he tried it.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob, because now I have understanding, and I feel like I can actually give like constructive criticism and understand the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of them at least, because they only did 2 targets and then they sort of just quit. Mentioned in the extra credits thing was like consistency of rules, and in the case of the targets, it has a lot to do with the looks of the turrets and what damage they deal and have we seen them before, etc. In this game, that doesn't really exist because they're repurposing Cannibal Wendigos as whatever the heck, and the hyenas are this other thing that launch rockets now, and who knows what else. So that's right out. Tools to work with, they narrow those down, but ideally the tools that we're given, once we build them well, should be usable in the most difficult of scenarios. And I think the problem with it was on the second target along the top, a few minutes into the match, they were able to identify and take out what ships were skirmishers, what ships were assault. And so the assault guy now goes down to the middle because there's this group of Apollos and turrets in the middle. So that's all him. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, the guy up top is fending off, with his skirmish, fending off skirmish ships. And then a few minutes in, there's assault ships that are coming in really fast. And there was no way to prepare for that. There was no way to know that it was coming. And the guy that's doing assault is now in the middle of a giant target. He has to get back up there. The guy from skirmish is running for his life. And the ships have like overload speed boost on permanently.
So what was causing the overload speed boost was anytime you killed the Apollos down below, it was giving the Zoe Rhinos a speed boost.
Ah.
So they'd get angry when you killed their friends. But if
you kicked the big guy,
and then they one-shot you.
And they do one-shot the skirmish fleet. But if the assault person hurries in and runs past all those Apollos and just goes straight down to the building that unshrouds the boats up top, it made that target considerably easier. But I will say we lost a few fleets figuring that out.
Wow. That was my question: how many times you had to die for that?
Well, like I said,
the question is, was it fun dying like that?
Yeah, it's a fun target. Remember, these are fun. These co-op targets.
Okay.
I actually did enjoy the targets. I did not enjoy the coins that it took to figure out the targets.
So, and that's the problem right there. The targets can be fun. They've come up with some really good targets after we figured them out, and that's the catch that I think they're disconnected from. We do enjoy them when they're difficult like this if we know what the hell we're supposed to do. It's the figuring it out to be able to have some fun when it costs us real money. That's where we have an issue.
And these targets have literally never been seen before.
No, they haven't. And like
I was mentioned that, so they know.
Yeah, and I was scared to go by the buildings because I was like, okay, are these turrets look like siege turrets? I know you said that I'm supposed to use an assault fleet, but design-wise, it looked like the newer turrets that we're seeing, and I was like, oh, please don't kill me in one shot. These Skyfires are not cheap to repair.
No, that's the issue, isn't it?
Well,
Based off the raid at the moment.
Didn't the third target?
Yeah.
Didn't the third target in that have two different kinds of turrets?
It does have both kinds
assault
of turrets.
and siege turrets. Yeah.
It does, and so my biggest complaint from doing that campaign is you can't easily identify for sure which ones are going to kill which fleet. So you would think that the Zoe rhinos might do okay against skirmish fleets, but until my partner encountered a fleet and went poof instantly, and hunters are not cheap to repair. We didn't know that I had to be back up there to deal with the Zoe rhinos when they came
That's
in.
annoying, isn't it? I mean, I'd like it really simple.
I'd like to see the.
Yeah, I was just saying, mate. But personally, we've got enough targets there, haven't we? We've had, we've had siege targets, and they've got a certain draconian targets. They've got a certain color. We've got enough different previous raids to say that's a one type of target, that's another, and you can put them all in together. We've seen targets, so just the blue ones, okay, that's garrison, or if you're going to use garrison, oh look, the red ones, okay, then so we know what those are. We have got enough. We've got the factions in our own base. It's not as if you can't do it.
Yeah, so the third one was really frustrating because we actually made it past one of the gates in the third target, which is further than what Rob was able to make it in his video. And my partner went in because he was using the siege fleet, and the turrets looked like our siege targets. And he went in there, and his fleet went poof. And then obviously we get kicked out of the target completely, and we'd go back in, and all the buildings had respawned. So
well then.
So obviously that's the reason that they pulled it. At least one of them was because the buildings weren't supposed to respawn, and so. But
and if you're not on TeamSpeak when you're doing these.
I'm sorry.
Go on, Jeff.
I was gonna say if you're not on TeamSpeak talking to each other during these targets, you're screwed too.
Oh yes, yeah, totally. But what we found out was when you go through the gate, it needed to be my fleet that went in there, not his. Even though the turrets look like siege turrets, I actually needed my assault fleet in there. So
that's crazy.
They didn't have them identified very well.
So what you're saying is, if you are not literally the people that designed and created these targets, there was no way for you to know.
No, not really. And like I said, the biggest frustration for the two of us was we made it that far. We were having fun. We didn't like the coin that we were spending, but the challenge of figuring out the target, wasn't something that was bothering us too much. But we were that far into the coin and the frustration, and then the entire TLC timed out because they only gave you an hour to do these 3 targets that you've never seen 2 of before.
Whoa. Yeah.
And I think so. There are definitely ways to improve this. I think one of the things they could do is like skirmish and assault. Skirmish is concussive and explosive, and assault is penetrative and corrosive. There is no overlap, absolutely none. And I think if they wanted to do this again in the future, they should have like garrison and assault, missile and explosive, missile and corrosive. There's overlap there. You both need missiles. And the things that require reflexive play because foreknowledge is impossible, like what happened when the overloading fleets of assault came in and killed the skirmish ships. If that was a garrison fleet, then it would at least be sort of okay because you wouldn't take too much damage. And you as the garrison player with explosive damage wouldn't be able to kill them, but you wouldn't take too much damage while you called the assault guy to come back up and hit him with penetrative. Also, iteration time. Super Meat Boy, you die, you're instantly back in, and the levels are short, so you're never very far real time from going back to where you made a mistake to try again. Here, you die, and I guess in this case, the target would regenerate itself, so you'd have to kill them again, but that's still a 10, 11, 12-hour repair or $2 and change of, real money, which is food or a gallon of gas or whatever. And that's not fun, especially, again, once these targets are completely new. If they want to do something like this again, I think it would behoove them to make them kind of like expeditions where you come back with no damage. If you've never seen them before, that would balance trying to figure it out. So you'd go back in and restart, and you'd go through a few minutes of play to get to that point, and then you could restart, from where you made a mistake and adjust from there without having to worry about massive repairs. But if they're new targets, like people are expected to be able to work these out. Like the first raid targets don't deal, 5, 6, 7 hours worth of damage necessarily unless you have a poor build or didn't need LA3. I'm sorry, what? So just make it a little easier when the targets come in, overlap, some sort of, preview and reduce the repair. And I think those are steps that they could take to make it so that something like this would be more well received and more doable by, the game's top players with top tech, which is if they can't do it, no one can.
Look, at the end of the day, the game's a conundrum, and I get that. You go in there, you're going in blind, that sort of stuff. But if you visualize something, and through experience, you know, right, that's a hyena
muscle
turret.
memory.
Muscle memory, exactly the same thing. Right, you go forward, and then once you've got that, that's fine. Cycle out the way. Oh, there's a track freaking mortar over the corner. Right, who's got the one with all the countermeasures for mortars? Right, you go in there, or there's a mortar under there, but also inside of its range, there's another thing. Right, you come in with me, you protect me from the mortars, and I'll go in and nick out the turret, whatever else. That stuff. I get that, but don't, as Raina was saying, don't mask. This isn't Cloak and Dagger, or it shouldn't be Cloak and Dagger. You shouldn't be going in there and freaking making one thing look like something else, or it producing something different, a different type of damage type than what's visually the norm. That's just Cloak and Dagger, isn't it?
The way that you just described it is how we actually envision co-op. When someone says co-op to the players, we're like, hey, that's what we're going to do, is like we work together so that way we can actually do the target, which means in our minds that we take less damage, right? But part of the issue is one that our idea of co-op and kick size apparently is not quite meshing because, surprise. And the other thing is, I think, more of a fundamental difference in, the fact that we have, when we take these fleets out now, they're all niche fleets. They're all made for raid, and they're all designed around raid repair time, right? Mm. And it goes back to, when stuff comes out onto the map, and then when they give us TLCs especially like this, where it's all brand new, right? I don't know that they take into account that our damage is not what raid time is. I mean, these things are supposed to be tuned down when they come to the map for a reason, because a ship takes 3 hours to repair sometimes. These are not cheap fleets to repair. And we get a brand new co-op target, especially when they change the way something looks, right? And it's like, you got to give some slack to the people that are playing here, because it's not fun. Even trying to, Raina said it, trying to figure it out was not the fun part. Once it was figured out, it was still challenging. It was still fun. The target was fun itself. It was designed well. However, we didn't have the foreknowledge that we needed in order to actually do the target without costing an arm and a leg to figure it out. That's an issue.
Well, and I think throwing it in the campaign was probably a mistake. The way they did the 120s, I think, is the right way to do these. Introduce them in a way where we have ability to, play with the target and figure it out, where we're not stuck in that hour time frame. Because I think, if they do like they did the 120s, where, we had a month to play around with them, even if it was a couple different versions of them, give us 2 more months, a month for each of these 2 new levels. And then, in April, throw them into a TLC where you have to do all 3 of them in an hour, and you have a totally different answer than when you're doing it this month, where I've never seen these other 2 targets. I haven't had time to figure them out. I haven't had a chance to study them and figure out the ins and the outs. That first prize pack we did fairly easy. I mean, it still probably cost us each a fleet just because of that whole respawning thing that we weren't expecting. But, I think there's just better ways to do it than to throw it in the campaign like they did.
I like the map. Personally, I like the map idea better. I like the target on the map, and someone was like, well, then you're not going to be limited on how many things you're going to get in this and that. And I'm like, well, there's got to be some way to do that. I mean,
well, there is, because when we used to the 50s on the open sea during raid time, if you'd got another 30, number 39, it would be blacked out and you couldn't get to it. So there is a way of doing it, Right. It's been in the game before, so it can happen.
Yeah. So then I would rather see him on the map.
Different level.
I was the one that said that, George. I mean, the other issue is you could extend the campaign timer out for 24
6 hours. Yeah.
And then you've eliminated that issue. It's just because when people see stuff on the map, they think they can consume as many as possible, and it also leads to confusion as far as like who's the one that started it, who's the one that finished it. Are we, especially if people are going in and out of the target with multiple fleets, we don't know who's the one that's receiving.
But they've fixed that with that little thingy that they put up in the left corner now.
Yeah, but if you're trying to help somebody and then their fleet dies and then they bring in another fleet, now you need to wait to retreat, and you can't retreat from these targets. It makes it. I mean, it's sort of like the campaign tower idea. I just don't like the 1 hour. 1 hour, I think, is more the issue that people are having than the fact that it's a campaign tower, right?
Well, looking at the number of tokens you get, what if it was something along the lines of, you get, so let's not say, a notional figure, 3 hours to do it. But if you did it in 3 hours of each of the tokens, you're going to get three. If you did it in an hour, then you get 3 of each of the tokens. Did it in 2 hours, you get 2 of the tokens. Did it 1 hour, so if you did it quicker, you get more tokens. But if you took the full 3 hours, you're just going to get 1 of each token. And you could go back in again, because the maximum you could get from the total of doing these targets is 3 tokens. Once you've got 3 tokens across all the token types, then you can't do any more. So everyone can either take the time or they can rush it. You can't. Everyone could actually end up with the same number of tokens. If you're really, really bad or you've got weaker ships, it's going to take you longer, but you still get the chance of, in the end, by using more and more fleets during the week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, of getting the same number of tokens as somebody else who's got the latest, greatest fleet. They can go and do it in under an hour and get 3 of the tokens each token straight away, sort of stuff.
I mean, that's a fantastic idea. I just don't know if they would be able to balance the time issue.
I got agree, mate. But I'm just saying,
these guys can do it in a half an hour, or these guys can do it in 3, and balance it somewhere in between there. Or they're going to go, okay, well, if you do it in 3 hours, you'll get 1. If you do it in an hour, you'll get 2, and if you do it in 15 minutes, you'll get 3. You know what I mean? Some crazy lopsided.
But once you've got your 3, you've got your 3. That's it, and you can't then go back and do it.
True.
You're at the max. You're out. That's it. You've got your lot. I don't know. I'm not sure, but there must be another way of doing it to make it a little bit more fun. Take your time, plan it, work it out, and that sort of stuff.
The
Well,
other
they've
issue
got
with
game designers on the payroll. I'm sure the game designers could figure something out if they actually put their mind to it.
Yeah, and the other issue with having them be map targets is the unintentional reaping of map targets that seems to occur. I don't know. It seems like every time they put a new target out, it reaps at some point that they don't seem to previously understand until it actually happens and players complain about it.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of, I don't know.
Well, I don't disagree, but I still liked having the 120s out there and giving us time to figure it out. I don't like the campaign just because only getting to do that target one time and then you're done until, whenever they decide to release it again doesn't really allow you to figure out the most efficient way to do it. Whereas at least doing map targets, you can do 5 or 6 to figure it out.
One thing I like about map targets is how the campaign tower keeps you in one spot. Whereas this last week or so, we've had a problem with snipers. And so they've been trying to snipe our fleets and that stuff, doing FM and campaign stuff. But for the map targets, that kind of would alleviate the problem because we could go to different sectors and do those targets there.
Yeah, snipers are a problem in this game in general lately.
Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, that goes back to the way that they've made everything such a niche thing. Because back in the day, you could snipe, but you'd have your baser would have a chance at least. Now you forget it. It's once
I personally from inside the base, I wish you could push. When you push the little icon there that brings up all the TLCs, I wish if you push that, just like going into your Hyperion, I wish if you push that button there, it would take you to another screen. And then from there, then you can start the TLCs without having to go out onto the water. I get
just like the expeditions. The expedition.
Yes, that'd be perfect. So you could just pick the TLC you wanted from within your dock space, and you wouldn't actually have to go out in the water. Because then all that sniping stuff would be done. I know for some things you have to go out in the water and those sort of stuff. Otherwise everyone just sits in their base and no one does anything. No one ever gets to interact with anybody out in the sea. But the running the gauntlet, like the Atlantic convoys, it does get frustrating when you're trying to do routine, regular stuff, which you're going to take damage from anyway, because it's PvE targets. You're going to get damage. The last thing you want is some arse jockey freaking knocking your ships out because he's pissed off because you hit his base last week or something. I don't know. I suppose that's payback, because then he's like, well, if you want to come and hit my base, I'm going to sink every ship you've got, I suppose. But
no, with this guy, he wanted to stay in a bubble and just do whatever he wanted to do. He had no reason to do it. So, but just because
there are people out there that just
we have our own way of dealing with those guys, and so it got settled. But that's
you can
one good thing.
drain people of stuff and rocket them to death and that sort of stuff. Yeah, we've all got ways of dealing with people. It doesn't matter how big they are or small they are. There's always a way of dealing with people that do stupid things. But it is annoying for a couple of days, you know. So.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, let's be honest, FVF doesn't exist anymore. I mean, everything's gotten so unbalanced and niche in its own little way that there's no FVF anymore. You can't do it. I mean, it's
there's no time for it. Yeah,
and I think the disparity. Yeah, the disparity between fleets though is so great that you're not going to have, like, you know, back in the day when we had 50, 60 fleets go from one sector to the other. That's not going to happen again.
That was Skyflies, would you?
No,
because you'd be like that. That was expensive.
Just a little bit.
And I wouldn't use a man of war either. That's not a good idea.
You would.
Not a chance, mate.
Thankfully, the Cadies is here to accommodate all your switching needs, except sometimes it doesn't.
So is the Cadies designed for that new fleet thing? So, you know, you take like so much damage in one sector of it, and then it jumps to another type of damage, and then obviously because it chose to change its damage types as it gets more and more dead, isn't it, or something?
That's a
I heard from an owner of the Cadies that he took, 10 hours of damage or whatever. He's at 70%. So he is not assault anymore. It's skirmish defenses. And he had left a battle and started another one, but he started a skirmish fight, but he got chunked real fast down to 50%, and then he held steady. So I think what was happening in that was it saw he was starting the fight and it put him on assault, even though his health said he should have been in skirmish. Yeah, nice. That is an unfortunate 30-day investment.
I haven't gone near that ship. I have to say, I can build it, but I'm not touching it. I've had my fingers burnt. I'm not doing it. Sorry.
It just seems like a poor design. I mean, you have to damage the ship in order to actually get to where you want to be.
And then you have to carefully heal it so that you don't go out of the damage type that you want.
Exactly.
I'd rather you could just somehow flick a switch on the ship and then all of a sudden it changes damage type, not let it get so far damaged and then all of a sudden it switches, because no, thank you. No.
UAV, yeah. Well, there's old ballistic UAVs, but they're kind of not that good, not anymore. So yeah, that's a problem.
It is, and then like you say, you keep it. All right, it's in the scourge mode now because I want to keep it this much damage. And if you fit it with, I mean, it takes two armor slots, but if you do put charge on one of each type, you're 3/4 damage before you start. So you've had it. So anyway, it is what it is. Right. I know I said about the hour and we're going to finish off, but that's 25 minutes ago. So has anybody got anything else apart from Brian that they want to bring up quickly?
Sorry.
I want people to pay attention a little bit to when they're using their crews and anything that is outside the norm that you're using your charged armors for. I'm getting some kind of strange results with my ironclads with charged sea armor on it, and I'm having some inconsistent results with crews. We'll say that. I'm not 100% sure on it yet, but it's some weird things are happening.
I saw that. Yeah.
So, keep eyes peeled and see if anybody notices anything, because you never know. We could find the next.
I still want crews ridded out of the game personally, but that's just me. I think we could do it in a much more eloquent way these days, but within the ship themselves, But that's just me. Okay. Anything else, anybody? It'll be good.
We're always good.
We's good. Right. Okay. We're going to sack it there then. So, Soul Hex, thank you. Rainer, thank you very much. Jeff, thank you. Hefe, thanks, buddy. George, obviously. And Brian from the team. Thanks, guys. Give me a hand. All those in chat, thanks for tuning in and assisting and putting in some good questions there. Some good comments. We've fed a few of them in as we can. In general terms, most people seem to have loved the TLCs, so well done on that. Okay. The adjustments to the OP cannon's been amusing. The addition of the new armor is causing some interest and some perplexity, but in general, it's another week of traditional BP. Boom, boom. It's great. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever the update comes out, which should all be about the raid, shouldn't it?
Yep.
Interesting times. Right. Okay. Take care. Thanks very much.
Have a good night, everybody.